Observer's Log. This is from 60,000 Light Years, a Star Trek podcast. We are taking it back to January 16th, 1995. Funny enough, not to date this, but it just celebrated 30
30
years.
years. I
Years.
feel old. I feel so old.
Yeah, side note, it's outside of Trek, this weird place of 30, like I feel somebody I forget what the years are that I put it was like, yeah, 1960s to what we were in the 90s is as far away. It's just, yeah, wow. Feeling old. I'm one of your observers, Jay Clark. Jay
And
Clark 787. My other friend over here, your other observer, Eric Berry, better known as Trekkie B47. Like, share, subscribe, hit that little dingy bell. Oh, I hate doing that stuff. Anyways, thank you for joining us and spending some time with here. If you haven't guessed yet, we are here for Star Trek Voyager. What we do here on this show is we take that 60,000 light year view of each entry of the Star Trek franchise, a beloved thing in our hearts. And funny enough, we're probably not far enough on this one because they went 70,000. We're only
I mean, Voyager, in a way, was kind of the inspiration for the name of the podcast, in a way.
indeed, indeed that being far away, that far away view, and looking forward to getting to it because
Yeah.
as we've built the house, we all know what TOS is. We all know what TNG is. If you haven't checked those out yet, they're in the queue there. We all know what Deep Space Nine is, very treasured in our hearts. We're now kind of getting on the other side of the mountain to an extent, but we are still in the golden age of Trek with Voyager, premiered during the third season of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
Once again, January 16th. The premise: the U.S. Voyager and crew, while searching for a missing Maquis ship, are stranded in the Delta Quadrant after a mysterious entity called the Caretaker pulls them from the Alpha Quadrant more than 70,000 light years from home. The two crews must come together as they find their way back to Earth. Quite the premise. To be honest, is what to me, as much as I love Deep Space Nine, I think Voyager probably has the best premise of all of Star Trek.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I mean, we'll get into it quite a bit, but I think Voyager was almost a return to the TOS style of storytelling because not in a sense of like, 50-minute episodes or anything like that, but the feeling of truly being out in the unknown.
Mm,
And original series really gave you that feel like, oh wow, everything's kind of new because this is our 5-year mission and we're out there. Well, Voyager's premise took that to the extreme. Now
yeah.
there's a potential for them not to get home for 70 years, and all along the way it's unexplored. So, yeah.
So how do you feel? So before we jump into it, so in general, how do you feel about the show as a whole? I know it's one of your tops. It's
It
ranked up there.
it is one of my tops, and as much as I love TNG for getting me into my Star Trek, fandom, and it was my first. Voyager was the first where I made the conscious choice
Mm,
and to watch it from the beginning. Because like I said in the Deep Space Nine, I kind of missed the first
yeah.
couple seasons and got into it later. Voyager was the one where, this was right before high school for me. I was, obviously into television and I was watching Deep Space Nine by that point regularly. But Voyager, I mean, it launched a network. It was the first thing that aired on a new network. And for me in the Chicago area, it was Channel 50. And
UPN 9 for me. UPN 9. The 9 was always a cool little.
yeah, they did something similar. It was like UPN 50. It was just really cool. And Voyager was like my first Star Trek where I consciously made the decision to watch it like from the beginning. And it was also the one where like I recorded every single episode on
Wow.
VHS back in the day. And if I knew I wasn't going to be home on a Wednesday night, it was like Mondays and then they switched it to
Yep.
Wednesdays. And so it kind of flipped. But I remember Wednesdays being the night, it's Voyager night. And if something was going to prevent me from watching it, I not many people can program VCR. Man, I had VCR programming down to a science
Talk about a retro
because
skill. Retro skill there.
it's a retro skill, but I have it. And it was cool because I remember like drawing like on the labels of
Mm.
VHS. I remember drawing like little Star Trek Voyager things on the labels. And so Voyager, I mean, definitely holds a special place in my heart. Um, I love it a lot. I know it's not for everyone. I know that there aren't some great episodes here and there, but overall, I'm a Voyager, like, I'm just a Voyager evangelist. I'll say that.
Okay, not bad at that. We'll see. We'll see where you go with this.
All
I don't.
right.
I don't. I don't hate it. You know, I don't. That's a horrible way to state it off jump. I
I
enjoy
don't
Voyager.
hate it.
I know.
Yeah.
I enjoy Voyager very much so. And as you mentioned, like this is the first Star Trek show with a dedicated day and time. Like we're not syndicated here. Yes, it started. I think it's switched in season 3. So yeah, season 1 and 2. Yep, Monday night, 8 p.m.
Yep.
You knew it was coming on. Then it switched to Wednesday for the last couple seasons. Um, to me, it's a it's standard. It's good Trek.
Hmm.
It'd be better before Deep Space Nine. And I mean that in this way, in terms of Voyager was a planned return.
Hmm.
It was supposed to give you that feeling of TOS and TNG because once again, this is the mid '90s. Serialization is not a thing yet, even
Right.
though Deep Space Nine is over here. It's still got some questions. It's not getting
Right. It. Yeah.
this was the we're gonna go back to the Trek that people love. More episodic, the space adventures being out, and so that's what Voyager was designed to do. And because it has such a great premise, I think they don't really get to fully actualize it. Like Voyager is the one show, if there was a chance to redo or go
Mm,
back and be like, we can do this a little better, it's Voyager. Because I think that premise, in the way that Deep Space, you couldn't do Deep Space Nine and not be serialized because of that premise.
right.
I think some more serialization in Voyager would have helped it out just a tad. Like
No.
it's
Yeah.
like it's like right there. It's like it's good,
And
but it's like
and I'll give you that, especially for the first half of the show. But I think the second half, because of D Space Nine, the second half of Voyager, it's not like totally serialized like D Space Nine, but there are threads and
yeah,
storylines and character things that start to weave through the later seasons of Voyager. But that was the D Space Nine effect.
yeah, and that's something like I've come to realize even more so over the past couple days. Like in doing just some rewatches and catching it on Pluto, to get back
Yeah,
into focuses on it for this was seeing this kind of like, yeah, they started off and they did a decent job of some of that in the beginning.
right,
The middle gets a little like, and then yeah, at the end, because I think of what they saw with Deep Space Nine and the fact that you're kind of ramping it down a little bit, it gets a little more serialized as well. So to me, like Voyager's the end pieces of the sandwich are pretty decent, are probably my most
right,
enjoyable. The middle portion is a little, oh, you could do some more here to really make these other pieces better, but it just doesn't connect and land in the way that, as a whole, Deep Space Nine, for example, does. And
right.
because you had Deep Space Nine, and we see what that beauty could be, sometimes it's kind of like, yeah, this was good, but you could have turned it up just a little bit. Like I said, I'm not hating on it. It's like just a little bit more.
Right,
Like,
right.
yeah, you did something there. All right, so let's talk about the crew real quick. So we have here Kate Mulgrew starring as Captain Kathryn Janeway, Robert Beltran,
I'm
Robert Beltran,
like two thumbs up already.
Robert Beltran as Commander Chakotay, Roxanne Dawson as B'Elanna Torres, Jennifer Lien as Kess, Robert Duncan McNeil as Tom Paris, whom he looks familiar, Ethan Phillips as Neelix, Robert Picardo as the Doctor, Tim Russ as Tuvok, Garrett Wang as Ensign Harry Kim, and then when we get to it in season 4, Jerry Ryan as Seven of Nine. Excluding Jerry Ryan for now.
Sure.
Thoughts on the cast as a whole? We see you love Janeway, which I'm not mad at.
I do love Janeway. I think she is a fantastic captain. She was the first full-time female captain for Star Trek, which is great. I mean, it was a huge milestone. I think Janeway is amazing. I love that her background is science. It really helps the feeling because Voyager is a science vessel. It's like a mid-size, cruiser almost. It's not a huge galaxy class
Not the
starship.
flagship. It's somebody
It's
send out
not
there.
the flagship. And so I love Kate Mulgrew as Captain Janeway. I mean, we'll get to Prodigy, but I love that basically Prodigy is a sequel to Voyager. I love it in every way possible. As a Voyager fan, Prodigy made me so happy for Janeway and all that stuff. But that love starts here with Voyager. Robert Beltran as Chakotay. I liked Chakotay in the beginning. Unfortunately, and the actor had problems with this too. They just didn't give him enough later on, which is very unfortunate. Tuvok, I think, is great. His character is really explored. I like seeing a Vulcan as a security officer because you mainly associate Vulcans as scientists, and to see Tuvok apply logic to security was really cool.
That it fits that pathology very well. Yeah, that's a very smooth fit. I'm aligned with you there.
And there's a few episodes where he really flexes his detective investigation skills, and I really enjoy those episodes. Roxanne Dawson as B'Elanna Torres, awesome. I mean, we get to explore half human, half Klingon throughout the show, and particularly about her heritage. But double of the fact that her father was the human, and her mom was the Klingon, and so I feel like it's almost getting to explore what Alexander might have gone through, but in a different lens. So I like how they made her half Klingon and half human. I thought that was a great twist. Robert Picardo as the Doctor, hands down, one of my favorite characters of Voyager and possibly of the franchise. I met Robert Picardo in person. We can talk about that later. He's awesome. He's funny. My mind was blown when they announced him coming back for Starfleet Academy.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm really excited for that. So
he helps make Voyager. Like part of what makes Voyager special as a show is his performance and character as the Doctor. Like the show is not the same without that.
Yeah, his journey and again, it's like the Data, it's like the Odo, it's like the Spock character, finding the humanity in a non-human character. Robert Duncan McNeil as Tom Paris. Wasn't a fan of Tom Paris as much in the beginning, but once that relationship with B'Elanna started and he had some character growth, and some consequences for his actions, which we'll get into. I really like his character towards the end of Voyager. Jennifer Lin is Kess. In the beginning, in the beginning it wasn't great, and I felt towards the end like her character was maturing a bit, but there wasn't a lot of where they could go with her, so I understand why she left. And when you hear all the behind the scenes, it's nuts.
Ooh, issues.
It's nuts. Neelix, I know a lot of people dislike him. I actually think he's the heart of Voyager. especially towards the end.
Mm.
Because there's a theme, like D Space Nine has, the war and social issues and that stuff. Voyager very much becomes about family as the series progresses, and
Hmm.
he's kind of like the non-Starfleet glue that holds the crew together. And as his character develops, he gets more and more responsibilities and more duties and more roles, and I think that really fleshes out his character. Harry Kim,
Poor
I
Harry.
poor Harry. I like the Tom and Harry relationship,
Yeah.
best friends, and it sucks that Harry became somewhat of the butt of the joke of all of Star Trek with the forever ensign, and also failed romance guy, because I feel that they could have done so much more with his character. But overall, it's an eclectic mix of characters.
Very, very much so. It's an eclectic crew. And yeah, there are holes there. It's again, it for me, the theme is going to be like you could have done a little bit more and gave us a little something. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the doctor's arc. He's one of the few that has a true arc throughout the show,
Yeah.
and they established that early, and that is an incredible journey. Yeah, it's a shame what they did with Chakotay. And you never really knew where to go with him necessarily. Yeah, Kess, that's a waste of a character to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Neelix, yeah, at one point, yeah, I've been like Neelix gets on my nerves, and even then, there's still some moments where he gets on my nerves. But a character like him is necessary. Like he's kind of Garrick-esque for this point of space that they're in.
Not
I
only
really
that,
enjoy that.
yeah, but not only that, he almost becomes their counselor,
Yeah,
confidant,
yeah,
and I just love how many roles Neelix has towards the end of the show. And legit, when he left, I mean, we'll get there, but when he left, I, I was a little misty eyed, not gonna lie. Like when
yeah,
his character left. I mean,
yeah.
everyone in the hallway sending him off. I mean, come on.
It's no, it's you know, it's the penultimate episode, and yeah,
Yeah,
it's a nice send off. To me, story wise, I think it could have been sent off a little earlier, but I think
sure.
like, but not in a bad way. Again, I think
No, no, no. Like
the structure of the show,
if
it's
you have a character as central as him leave, it would be cool to see in the subsequent episodes who starts filling those roles. Because another great character arc, Tom Paris training as a nurse and becoming a medical officer,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, like I said, to me, Voyager is really the one I would like almost to see a redo because
sure,
especially in today's day and age, like 'cause we'll get to it when we get to like an episode like Year of Hell. Year of Hell like encapsulates. It's like, oh, but that could have been
just make the whole season the
make
year
the
of
whole
hell.
yeah, and I think especially with it being a a journey, a long journey home. One of the bad things about the show is you never really get the sense of where they are. Like it's kind of it's kind of we're here one minute, we're further along the next, or we might not, like it's not consistent in a way that I think that could have
It's
really
yeah, I mean it's because if you're a Voyager nerd like me, I mean I was at sites that was like, seeing how far their jumps were and like where they're at and this and that. And don't get me started on the infinite Voyager shuttles, because there was one website that was like they have only
shuttles and torpedoes, shuttles and torpedoes. And
yes,
I think it's one of those things. There could have been so much more depth given to the show when you like yes you because it's brought up in ways that okay we got to find this resource or we got to get this or yeah we only got 38 torpedoes but if you only really count that in that episode it's not having the impact. And again I said Voyager before Deep Space Nine I think could be looked at even more favorably because it's like okay well we just weren't there in storytelling yet.
sure,
But the
sure,
fact that this is literally happening at the same time that Deep Space Nine is doing its thing, and now that even today's age that we've evolved to this more purpose storytelling, which works and doesn't work in some situations. I think that premise of Voyager really would have set itself up. It's like, okay, yep,
yeah,
this is what this 10 episode arc is in this journey. And then it's like, okay, yep, then we moving on, and then we moving on, and then we moving on. And I think it would have really worked out well with this premise.
Hmm.
Let's go ahead, jump into it. Season one, popping off with the caretaker. And I'll be honest, I one of the strongest season series premieres uh off because they're off the jump. We're launching from Deep Space Nine. We had the
Oh my
mission.
God. And
Like,
that was so cool. Just like seeing Voyager docked with Deep Space Nine,
mhm.
just like we got to see Enterprise D docked with Deep Space Nine at the beginning of their show. So it really cements Deep Space Nine as like that hub. And they were tying in the Maquis, which was huge with Deep Space Nine at the time. Like, and that's a whole that's a whole part of the premise too, with the two crews,
Yeah.
which they could have extended that conflict more, but at least they had it. They had it. It came up a few more times throughout the series. I loved when Voyager finally got it. I know we're jumping ahead a bit, but I loved when Voyager got back in contact with Starfleet, and then they found out what happened to the Maquis
Oh
because of
yeah.
what happened in Deep Space Nine, and then the repercussions from that. So anyway, that's later. But yeah, Caretaker is one of the strongest premieres for Star Trek.
Yeah, the way they jump into it, you almost once you're through the rift, and you kind of get a bait and switch because you get the this is the crew, this is the bridge crew, and then like half of them are dead.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what's going on here? Um, and just because it was just on the other day, I was like, wow, this is like for example, the way they set Janeway up,
Yes.
smooth, like. You had this incident happen and chief engineer dead. She rolls up her sleeves. I'm down here. We're gonna get this work done. And it's like that's what you want to see from a captain. Like she is very much so demonstrating, yes, I have the knowledge of this ship. As
Exactly.
a good captain should. You should be able to step into almost any role and be able to help out. And she's doing that from the jump. And yeah, one of the stronger, if not possibly the strongest female character ever demonstrated in the series. It'd be interesting to see a battle between her and Kira to an extent. But no,
Oh,
Jane.
just the oh my God, just the attitudes
Yeah.
clashing there, and oh man, and not one of them willing to back down. That would be a discussion I'd love to see.
Especially with the whole terrorism thing and
Yeah.
it's that'd be interesting. But it's a great premiere. It sets the show up nicely. I love the introduction of Neelix. Like, yeah, you would need a guide for this area of space that you've never seen before. Like that
Right.
makes sense. Like that works. The pieces fit in. Yeah, these first couple episodes, like episode 2 jumps in, it's like, okay, yeah, we're still getting to know each other, but by episode 3 it's kind of like, yep, we're all happy fans now. And it's like,
I,
hey,
I, I don't know about that, but no, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
I want more. That's just me personally. Like to
Sure.
me, I think you, because I think you have some great things set up. Whereas we see a lot in today's track, it's always what's that objective for the season? And once again, the plot I think sets it up nice. Like the whole thing with the K's on, like that's a great initial thing. Like you give me a solid season of these two issues, the crew really forming, us holding to our principles against the big baddie for this area of space. It doesn't have to be nothing too big. They're the big baddie for this area of space. We got to deal with them. It's to me, it's just that's a creative seeing the potential there. Just go a little deeper. What are some highlights for you from season one as we're traveling from 70,000 light years to get closer to Earth?
So one of the highlights for me, I've got a couple good highlights just to talk about. The Phage, which
Oh.
introduces the Vidians, and that is really a strong episode for Neelix right out the gate because, I mean, just the implications of like losing a piece of you that you need to live and being trapped to one area. I think it was a very strong episode to start him out on.
Mhm.
Um, and plus, I think the Vidians are a very cool villain for Star Trek. I wish they had done more with them, but the episodes that we do get that involve the Vidians are actually really good. So I think, along with the Kazons, introducing another strong villain out the gate was really interesting. Another one that I really love, and it is almost like their first taste of the Alpha Quadrant, is Eye of the Needle.
Ah, okay.
I
Okay.
love Eye of the Needle because it's such a, it gives them so much hope. And
Early
then
too. Early hope.
early, early hope. And they're like, oh my God, like a wormhole. And wait, we're getting a signal from the Alpha Quadrant. And to have it like have that next generation D Space Nine tie-in with the Romulans, only to have the twist come in that, oh no, he's like 20 years in the past. And we don't even know if the message that we gave him is going to even reach where we need it to go.
Right.
So it was one of those great um, early episodes to establish like the hope and what they're willing to do to get back home. And also one of the greatest, aside from um, shoot, Jeffrey Combs. Aside from Jeffrey Combs, it's got Vaughn Armstrong
Yeah.
as a guest actor, and he's done a lot in Star Trek. Most notably as Admiral Forrest in Enterprise, where he's got no makeup and
No,
he's
but yeah.
just a guy. And so, yeah, really strong performance as him by Telek Ramor. I think this is one of the standout episodes of the first season, because especially if you want to get like that TNG DS9
The connection. Yeah.
familiarity. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say that episode, and even if you take it back to Parallax, what one of the standout things about Voyager throughout its run is they have, because they do a lot of them, is just their timey wimey episodes. Like they were the different ways that they played with time, whether it be time travel or disparities or shifts, and like, yeah, Janeway is sick of time travel, as we know, because yeah, the way they were able to play with it a lot, which puts them in some unique situations. Because let's be honest, outside of Janeway being a female captain
Yeah.
and being in the Delta Quadrant, there's not much as a franchise. You're not exploring too much new here. We've seen a lot. Yeah, we've got a new ship, but the premise, the show itself is like, okay, yeah, this is the fourth rendition of it. What are you bringing new? And I think that's one of the things that struggle with a little bit is, okay, how do we bring something new to this? And they did bring some things new, but yeah, the way they played with time travel is some of the best. One of my favorites is Prime Factors,
Oh,
and
yes.
the way we
Yes.
kind of, again, another tenet of Voyager, holding true to the tenets of the Federation, the Prime Directive, their primary battle with the Kazon. The Kazon want the technology, they're not going to give it to them. And here, Voyager is now on the other side. This could help us get home. And
Yep.
somebody else is like, nah, we can't give that to you. Like it's an interesting turn, because generally we see the Federation on the stronger side of things,
Right.
and here they are. It's like, oh, you want to give that to us? Come on. They're like, nah, this is our Prime Directive. We can't do that. And I think it's a great twist on something that they talk about a lot and always use as a, nah, we can't do this and we can't do that. And here it is, low key in a way, getting thrown back in their faces.
Another couple strong ones, Faces,
Hmm.
where the Vidians split B'Elanna Torres, and we've seen a lot of this type of episode in Star Trek,
Right.
like the Enemy Within. Where it's like the two sides get
Yeah.
split, and the conflict of that. But it was also really cool to see like a fully human Torres and a fully Klingon Torres.
Yeah. It's one of the few
Eh,
times Roxanne is not in makeup on screen. It's like,
Yeah,
hey.
yeah, and I think they did a really good job with exploring her character there. also another one was Jetrel,
Mm,
where another strong Neelix episode, because we get to see more about Neelix and like what happened with
his family.
Talaxia
Yeah.
and with his family. And it's like you're basically he's basically being confronted by someone like, this ultimate killer essentially. Like and so a very strong societal type of episode. And I really like how Ethan Phillips, like, you get to see the range in Neelix, like, how angry he gets and
Yeah.
how much of a, how much of a dilemma this is for him.
Ethan with Neelix, just because of the kind of character that he is, probably has some of the most range, the ability to play with on the show. Like you see him making jokes at inappropriate times. There's like, oh, okay, yeah, he's different. This, he gets a lot of fun to play with. It's probably, I imagine, one of the funner roles to embody on the show, just because of what was presented and what he identifies with on the show, and
And oh
the,
my gosh, all that makeup, like you would hope you could you could deal with all of that. So maybe this is one of those episodes where it's like, all right, I'm frustrated with the makeup. Let me channel that into this episode.
they got these 4 hours from this morning in the chair. Who knows how long he had to sit there. And then yeah, at season one, 16 episodes, ending with Learning Curve. I enjoy Learning Curve. That Maquis is not quite integrating. Once again, I think these are some more elements that I wish we could have seen just teased and dropped here and there, versus rather the standard typical one episode focusing on it and then we're gonna move on. But again, but still glad to see how it's still picking up while
Yeah.
being an episodic show. Some of these threads, based off the premise of the show, you kind of had to.
Well, here's the thing about season one, it's only 15 episodes. And we're so used to Star Trek at this point getting 26 episode seasons. The the reason why it got cut to 15 episodes was because they were premiering in January.
Yeah.
Most shows start in September, but because they were launching a new network, I'm not going to say they rushed the show, because they didn't. There was, a lot of pre-production and a lot of planning that went into Voyager. It's just they had to cut the episode number down for that January premiere date, because they went from January to May. And
Yep.
then the next season, season 2, started in August, like towards the end of August. So there you start getting your 26 episode seasons. I think if Voyager was given maybe, the regular number count in season 1, maybe we could have had a proper season finale,
Yeah.
we could have had a little bit more episodes to establish these characters. So I think that is one of the faults of season 1 is, and it's no fault of the show. It's just
The nature
that's
of the
how it
day.
was with production.
Yeah, that's, like I said, this was the series premiere. They were putting the money into it because the series premiere was one of the most expensive premieres of the time. You had, of course,
Right.
the whole issues with switching out the role of Kathryn Janeway at the last minute as things were being shot. But certainly, yeah, they wanted this to be the flagship of UPN. This is which I really can't wait to talk about till next month. This is a heyday of Trek that we will never probably see again. But anyways, we'll save that for next month.
Sure.
Season two, we open up with a cool episode, the 37s. Again, like, because of the ability to play with, you're in this weird random space, being able to pull in, yeah, abductions. Amelia Earhart. Why would she be out here? But she's here, and it works because it's sci-fi, and they played with these things of unsolved mysteries to an extent. Like, okay, yep, in this realm, here's the answer that nobody knows about. She's just been on this planet, frozen forever. But it's fun. It's fun.
It was fun. And I loved, because okay, I'll say this right now, and it's probably spoiling the end of this episode. But Voyager is like top Starfleet ship for me. Like,
I'm not, you know, she's a beautiful ship. Beautiful ship.
Sleek, fast, but small enough to land on a planet. And I think that's one of the coolest things. Wish we got a little bit more of it during the entire run of the show. But I love it, and the 37s really shows off Voyager landing. It's great.
Again, it's in this space of what can we bring new
Yeah,
to this area, and yeah, we have never seen a starship land on a planet, and it's kind of like almost in the same vein of D when it did the sausage separation. It's
right.
that feature that okay, we know it can do, but we just don't see it too often enough because it's an expensive behind thing to produce and actually make happen. But it's cool when we do get it, and the fact is like okay, yes, that is a nice thing. I'm there with you. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoy the Intrepid class ship. Yes, it's sleek. It's a decent size. The whole nacelles, being flat for impulse speed, and then when it's time to form the warp bubble, they float. Like the Voyager is a cool ship. It fits those requirements. Like I'm not mad at you. It probably holds a little higher than I would have expected. Just in my mind, I was like, where am I going to put this thing? And I'm like, interesting. It's probably going to be a little higher than I would expect it. But no, I'm with you. She's a beautiful, sleek.
It's really cool. Yeah.
I mean, and since we're here, again, that intro is probably like that's a beautiful, beautiful intro.
Yeah, I watched someone do a 4K like remaster of the intro, and just the music, the Jerry Goldsmith theme. I mean, I love that theme so much. It's a beautiful intro. When Voyager is going through the gas cloud, and it leaves that little like eddy behind. It's so good. I could watch that intro on a loop all day and I'd be fine.
Yeah, yes, yeah, that's it. It fits right in, and again, it's different, but still fits within the music of Star Trek. But it's also singularly identifying to this show and what it is. Like, yeah, what Jerry did there again, Chef's kiss, and also just speaks to how important the elements of what makes Star Trek. It's not, it's all the elements. It is the crew, it is the ship, it's the premise, it's the music that's associated. It's all these things that kind of come together and make the beauty of each of these series. And yeah, once again, they're striking gold as they have done during this era so far.
And Voyager, I mean, going back to the ship, the Voyager model, this was pretty much the last main starship that had a model.
Yep.
And then as they progressed, they relied more and more on CGI as the CGI got better and cheaper. And yeah, the Enterprise was all CG. So Voyager was that last transition from all model to all CGI. And it looks great. It's a good looking ship.
My only issue, which isn't a Voyager issue, it's a Star Trek issue to an extent. The scaling is just bad. There are times Voyager just looks too big, to be honest. Like Voyager doesn't look as small as I believe it should sometimes until you're with that Kazon mothership. But then there are other times like, yeah, this thing looks like. I hate that every show, the ships were always the same proportion.
Sure.
The ships were always the proportion of the Enterprise D. The ships was always the proportion of the 1701.
Yeah, I get what you're saying with Voyager, but I also kind of excuse that as in universe. A lot of the Delta Quadrant species didn't have ships that were that big.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had a lot of smaller ships. They came across a lot of cultures that weren't as advanced. So I kind of give it a little bit of a pass. At least early on, because then once they get past the Borg, there's more civilizations in the Delta Quadrant that are a little stronger, and we'll get to that.
Do we ever really get past the Borg though? And we'll get there.
You never really get past the Borg.
What are some highlights of season 2 for you? What stands out?
Projections is a big one. That was a big Doctor one with kind of like seeing. We got to see Reginald Barkley, which we will see later on, but this is like a fake version of him. But like Louis Zimmerman and like the Doctor's creator, who was also established on Deep Space Nine. We got to see him cross over there. So that was a great episode just to explore more of the Doctor. I really like Prototype, which is kind of like classic sci-fi robot, like,
Yeah.
and there's a twist there to that. Meld was another good one, just because it sets up some stuff later in season 3 and in the show. But I like Lon Suter and him being a Beta Z and Tuvok. There's a lot of mind games, and to have basically a serial killer on the ship, or someone who's capable of that, it was like nuts, because you're like, we have to live with this guy for 70 years, because we're not going to like put him in the brig forever or kill the dude. Like, so it's a lot of great moments there. Death Wish, with the return of Q and a different Q.
I have problems with Death Wish.
Oh, let's get into it.
And I know they kind of bring it up in the episode.
Sure.
But there's no damn reason Q couldn't send Voyager home.
Yeah.
But there's like, it's one of those things where it's one of those like, and if I'm Janeway, you got to press hard, because you know what he did to the D. He sent them out. Like, it's one of those things like, come on, Q. Send them home. And send them home. That's it.
Yes, but then you think, like, because Q's a little bit knows everything.
It's
like
TV reasons. It's TV reasons.
It's TV reasons, because you wouldn't have a show. Yeah. But in universe, it's like, then maybe the Borg wouldn't have got destroyed without Voyager, kind of.
I'm not mad at how you connecting some dots there. I see what you're doing. Very omnipresent and all-knowing. Okay.
And then two other good ones that I'll recommend is Dreadnought with the
missile. Is that the missile one?
That's the missile one.
Okay, yeah.
And again, I know there's a big critique, especially that a lot of people have of Voyager, especially the first like couple seasons. There's a little bit too many little Alpha Quadrant connections early on, and I think Dreadnought was one of them, because it's like Cardassian torpedo that's all the way out here in the Delta Quadrant. But I mean, they do kind of cover that a bit, like the Caretaker was pulling things in from all across the galaxy. But I do like that B'Elanna has to use part of her Maquis training and knowledge about this, especially the bad consequences of AI, I'll say.
Yeah, you're going there.
I am going there. And then another really controversial one, but I have to mention it, is Tuvix.
Oh,
is Janeway a killer?
I thought you were going Threshold for a second. It's funny because see.
Well, I'm trying to avoid Threshold because I know we got to talk about it, but
season 2 is
it's a mix.
A high point and a low point. It's a mix.
Yes. It's a very polarizing mix, because when it's good, it's good. But when it's terrible, it sucks. Yeah. And I would say, hands down, Threshold is not only the low point of season 2, it's just the low point of Voyager.
It's one of the worst episodes of Trek.
It's
it's
ba- it's
it's
bad.
it's bad. It's
I'd
bad.
still watch that over Section 31, apparently.
Um,
Yeah.
Tuvix. So where do you? It's interesting because this
Uh,
for was as we kind of talked about with DS9 a little bit. When you talk about notable episodes and in the top creme de la creme, a lot of Voyagers just don't get up there. TOS, TNG, and D Space Nine, they hogging it all. Tuvix is one of the most notable though, just because of in a great way that sci-fi quandary of what sci-fi should do of putting these things out there. Where do you fall with Tuvix? I'm just curious.
God.
Did Janeway make the right decision?
I mean, I'm Team Janeway, so I think ultimately, ultimately she did, but you can see both sides of it, and that's why she's the captain. It's to live with those tough, controversial choices. And I'm sure it's one of the things Starfleet when they got home was like, "Wait, what?"
You did what?
And so it pains me because, and that's the beauty of this episode. You get to really like Tuvix. Like
Charming.
you
The crew
really
likes him.
like him.
Contributions, yeah.
But you're also condemning two other characters who you might like to death. And that will be the forever struggle of the decision of Tuvix. People still argue about it online to this day. Here we are 30 years later. That's a
Yeah.
good episode of Star Trek.
It's good. Yeah. I wish if it had done what it's supposed to have done, it'd have been nice to see that effect on Janeway a little bit.
Sure.
I think
Yeah.
because like that's a heavy thing. I think just the fact that again the problem is Voyager's trying to straddle the fence, and sometimes it really works well when it works, and then when it doesn't,
Yeah.
it doesn't. And this is one of those situations where you would love to be able to possibly see this impact or this burden of especially of a decision like this
I
on
think
Janeway.
I think if Tuvix happened in like season 5 or 6,
Yeah,
we would have felt those effects with her decision. Like she would have been losing sleep every time she has to look because Tuvok was her bestie from before Voyager. Like
yeah, that's
they served together for a long time.
yeah.
And whereas Neelix is, I mean, Neelix has become by this point, such an integral part of the crew that, yeah, to put anyone in that position to make that decision it's an impossible decision, but she had to make a choice. And that's the power of this episode. Whether you agree with her choice or not,
And I again, I love how it just doesn't give you it gives you an answer for what it did in the show, but it's just kind of it leaves you with, and that's what great sci-fi does.
yeah,
You mentioned earlier the Alpha Quadrant tie-ins, and yeah, again, when Voyager's doing things that work, they work, and when sometimes they don't. And I think this is like a 75% of the time it works,
right.
and it's that quarter time that it doesn't. Like, 'cause I do because I think that's part of the fact that yeah we're stranded out here, but because of TV reasons we're still trying to make this feel familiar, give you things you recognize or inject these little things.
Right.
I think like I said 75% of the time I think they do some things in some cool ways, like yeah, even with the Q pop-up and you bring in Riker for the quickest second and he's gone, like oh yeah,
He's
great
there
play.
maybe like 3 or 4 minutes, but I mean that was such an awesome
Yeah.
like little crossover that I mean when I was watching this originally and Riker showed up, I was like losing my how old was I? I was losing my 13-year-old mind at that point. To really date myself, but that is the power of Star Trek. When even when you can bring a cameo, as long as it's meaningful, it really works well.
and speaking
And
of
even
camp,
if John Delancey, I mean, come
yeah,
on.
like Q in another series.
Okay, he didn't show. He showed up one time in Deep Space Nine. He makes up for it coming back in Voyager.
What? It's a total of like 4, I think. I
Yeah,
didn't. It's like 4, but they're all fun, kooky, kind of crazy episodes.
yeah.
And see, the end of season 2 is probably one of my favorite times
Mm-hmm.
Voyager story, just because it's one of the times that they're operating, with the Kazon story. It's an arc that's not just back to back to back. It's kind of spaced out. But then as we get into season 3, after they've been stranded on a planet, which is great, yeah, great. Somebody's taking the ship and they're gone, and we got the whole Chakotay and Seska's baby. That's poor,
Little bit 2 days of our lives.
poor Chakotay. Again, I think just like, what are you doing with this character?
Yeah.
Season 3, we get one of the standouts in flashback. And it ends corny, but outside of that, it's a good episode.
So this was the 30th anniversary of Star Trek.
Yeah, 30th anniversary of the show, and here we are, the 30th anniversary of.
Oh my God!
Again, we're doing this. We're approaching 60 years. That's the whole point of doing this show. But yeah, flashback again. Bringing Sulu back, and not just clips, but here you are. You're incorporating a storyline from Star Trek 6 in this movie. There's some questions because of Tim Russ, but it's and the whole was he. Anyways, he's a crew member, Tuvok, serving on the Excelsior at the time, and you get a cool chance to play around. You got, Rand back in the crew, the Monster Maroons.
I loved how much. To me, this is. I mean, it's almost up there with Trials and Tribulations in terms of like matching, like bringing actors back, matching the sets, matching the outfits, doing alternate angles from the movie. I did watch like a comparison of like the movie with like what happened in flashback, and sure, I mean obviously because Georgia K is a little older and all that, but it works. It works for television, and it works for a nice 30th anniversary tribute.
Unfortunately, it also no, technically, kind of. It also marks the last time we get an OG member, to an extent, television wise, at least. Like this is the
television wise, sure,
and then it also kind of closes the door. Like even though we get Chekhov or Walter Koenig voicing a Chekhov heir in Picard, it also kind of I don't want to say excludes, but it makes, unfortunately, Nichelle Nichols, R.I.P., the only OG member to have never returned to the show. Everybody else, in essentially, kind of got a chance to kind of come back.
Right.
Besides her.
I do like, just kind of sidelining a little bit, I do like that posthumously they are elevating her character, because I think in Picard they were saying that she went on to captain a starship.
Yeah,
there's a starship named after Uhura. Like they're giving her flowers after the fact, but it is unfortunate that we didn't get to see her at least one more time on television.
Yeah, but like I said, the only problem I have with flashback is that Janeway line at the end, which is so just TV, Oh yeah, in some way I felt I was there too. That one just kind of it's just a little corny. Like, oh come on, Janeway, I get it, but
but no, that was a good episode. And here we are talking about Alpha Quadrant connections, but False Prophets. But it's a sequel to a TNG episode.
This episode generally doesn't get favorably reviewed. And I'm kind of like, that's the fun way to play with it. Like, to me, that's
I like it.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Like, it's crazy. It doesn't, it fits in with, yeah, again, they're out. The universe is a big place. You never know sometimes where some things are going to end up. Yeah, sure.
But from that TNG episode, they did say that the Barzan wormhole was kind of like loosey goosey in the Delta Quadrant.
Yep.
So, gee, you have a show that's in the Delta Quadrant, and you run into Ferengi, these knuckleheads again,
Yeah,
and I love the whole fact in a meta way that Ethan Phillips Neelix disguises as a Ferengi, and he played a Ferengi before.
yes.
So
Yes.
it's all full circle. It's a fun episode. It's just one of those fun episodes of Star Trek.
A little further along in the season 3, one of the standouts, which got to be, again, what Star Trek knows how to do some two-parters. Future's End
Yes.
is just,
So good.
it's a good episode. Like that's
So
one of the
good.
ones I can watch over and over again of Voyager. No.
Me too. You've got a great guest actor in Ed Begley Jr. You've got the Doctor getting his mobile emitter,
Mobile emitter. Character
is
development. Opens them up to.
a game changer for the Doctor and for holograms in the future of Star Trek. But you also have Sarah Silverman in Star Trek? What?
One of my problems with Voyager, and it's not necessarily Voyager, but I think it's being UPN and this era of television, because we're
Sure, because we'll get into like the big name guest actors.
It's a kind of a trend, and not to say that Star Trek hasn't had big name stars or guest stars on it, but it's never been highlight. Like this was a.
It's the fact that they promote it, like Sarah Silverman in Future's End, or The Rock shows up. Like, that's when they start promoting it for actors. Say, I'm not gonna lie, and this is something I won't defend Voyager. Terrible promos. Because it was the big sensational UPN promos, because it was their flagship, but also UPN in general is very out there, and that's when they were getting the WWE. I think it was Raw, right? They had Raw at one point, and so of course, I mean, we'll get there, but it's The Rock, and it's like, come on, guys, what are we doing? But no, I mean, but I still think it was cool that she was in Star Trek. That's cool.
It's nothing against Sarah. Like the character's great. It fits the stories well. It's more. It's just a bigger issue.
The bigger issue.
It's the bigger issue. No, I love. It fits the story very well. Plays very well. It's
time travel. I love when they do time travel the year that the show is airing. Like I know a lot of people don't like Picard season 2, and I do have some issues with Picard season 2, and I know we'll get there. But I thought it was kind of cool that, oh my gosh, it's in 2024 or whatever. And
makes easy, great long location shooting, and the whole, Tom Paris being a 90s-esque, or just old school enthusiast.
And he did get some things wrong. He did, which is hilarious. But yeah, I like that he was in his element in this one.
Yeah, but this is, again, Voyager, especially when it comes to the time travel, knocks it out the park. And this is a game changer. The whole mobile emitter thing, opening up the Doctor to be able to just do
the USS Relativity, which becomes Captain Braxton.
Various appearances too. Like it sows some seeds that get picked up later. It's
good. It's good.
It's Voyager operating at peak efficiency, and also allowing how do we get Voyager on Earth for a second, or to be able to do this kind of time. It makes sense without kind of sacrificing the show. It fits in. Well, let's see what else we got in season 3 that really steps out. Not much to me, to be honest with you.
No, I mean there's some
good episodes, but nothing like.
Sure. We got our next Q appearance with the Q in the Gray, which is a fun episode. It's fun. But one of my favorites, just because it starts setting up some of that serialized storytelling, is Blood Fever and Unity. Because
Okay.
at the end of Blood Fever, I remember this. At the end of Blood Fever, because they left that jungle planet, and then they showed the Borg corpse, and I was like, "Holy crap! It's time!" Like I was like, "Oh my god, they're setting the seeds for the Borg." I mean, this was like a year after First Contact,
Yeah. Yeah.
so everyone's like in Borg mode, and you know the Borg come from the Delta Quadrant, so it's only a matter of time. And so when they started planting the little seeds, like with Blood Fever, with Unity, I thought that was really cool.
I hate the TV reasons for it. I do enjoy the story reasons as it's
Yes, because
I hate
it's like you're starting to get on the edge of Borg territory, and you're like, oh crap, here we
it's like,
go.
okay, yes, we're traveling, and yes, that makes sense. You would end up here eventually, and yes, you would know that it's coming, and yeah, I love that. I hate the fact that just it's because of how successful First Contact was as a movie. That
Sure.
kind of, they want to shoo it in just a little bit. Again, some bad producing decisions, but no, yeah, it works out nicely.
A couple more things. I
Go-
before and after, because it gives Kess kind of like a nice what if before she's off the show, which I appreciate. But it also hints of the year of hell.
it takes
So
place.
like planting the seeds, planting the seeds. But one of my favorites, aside from this season finale, one of my favorites is Distant Origin with the
Okay,
dinosaurs.
out of those last couple ones, that's not the one I was expecting you to say right there. Okay. Okay.
Which one did you think I would say?
Well, to me, real life is just a funny one. With
Yes.
Doctor creating a family, I was low key expecting you to go worst case scenario there, with the whole Maquis takeover on the holodeck, which is crazy, but it's an
Yeah.
interesting. It's to me the way they approach it, the fact that yeah, yeah, Tuvok created this as a just in case, which makes sense from his Vulcan state of mind, and the crew's just like, oh, we discovered this. Let's play this out. Let's see what happens. It's a fun way to play with this element of the
Yes.
show.
I think I think again it's one of those episodes that might have worked better a little later. Like because it feels like you could easily put this in season 5.
Oh yeah,
Cuz
it could fit anywhere. It could fit.
yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
I just think it was a little too close to those first two seasons to for them to already be like, "Oh, ha, ha, ha." So I do like that episode, but it's kind of like middle of the road for me.
Mhm.
I just I really like Distant Origin because it's starting to get to one of those last few times where we have an interesting story for Chakotay, and I like that he no, but I like that he liked archaeology in a way,
Mm.
and I really love the sci-fi element of this. Of like, what if some of the dinosaurs did leave the planet and they kept evolving, and now they're like a major player in the
Right.
Delta Quadrant? It's just really cool, and also to see them kind of reject it as heresy. Like, even though the evidence is like right there, their species are like so it's almost like a prime directive in a way, and you're playing with
Yeah.
different cultures maybe denying their origins. So I think it's a cool episode.
No. I'm with you. It's the even though as much as I complain sometimes about Voyager being episodic,
Hmm.
it's some great the way they did culture clashes with Voyager sometimes, which makes sense for the premise. You're running into a bunch of different people who you have no weight with. Like I think that's one of the things I
Hmm.
enjoy about early Voyager is people are like the Federation. What's Federation? Who's that? What's that mean? You're in our territory now. Like this whole thing. So the way they play with that episodically in these rando civilizations that you find a clash with one
Hmm.
way or another, it pulls off very well. We wrap up season 3 with the big turn of Scorpion Part one, promote the hell out of because, as you mentioned, yes, it's the ramp up. The Borg, it's here. It's a bad. There's a baddie badder than the Borg. What? Who can destroy the Borg? We get species 8472.
472.
Some bad 90s CGI. It worked at the
Hey,
time.
pretty good for the
Pretty
time.
good.
It's
Pretty good at the
terrible
time.
now.
But now it's just like, my God, this is terrible, terrible stuff. Yeah, Scorpion was an interesting two-parter. It's finishing out season 3 and opening up season 4.
Yeah. Also, just one last note for season 3, kind of tying it into Neelix. I did think the episode Fair Trade was another big milestone for Neelix because he's at the end of his usefulness in
Yeah,
terms of like a guide. And so he's freaking out. And then, he's trying to get like maps and information and intel because he's running out of information that he knows. And it's one of the last times he meets up with a fellow Talaxian before the end. So
right.
you really it those episodes, because that's before a few episodes before Blood Fever. So mid season 3 they start teeing up that
Yeah.
we're getting deeper into the Delta Quadrant and more into the unknown, and oh yeah, the Borg. So that's why I think season 3 is a turning point for Voyager, just because we're starting to really get into the meat of Voyager.
The turning point that goes good or bad depending on how you feel about the Borg.
Sure,
Before we
sure.
get too deep into it, though, I can't believe we forgot about this. Voyager's a standout because it is the only series where we can literally say one of the main characters does not finish the journey.
Yeah.
It, Harry Kim literally dies, and we get a different Harry Kim.
That a lot of people ignore that, but that happened. That happened.
We get a different Harry Kim. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
Harry Kim.
and technically,
Naomi
Naomi
Wildman.
Wildman.
Yeah, from a different timeline, but again, Voyager playing with time. But yeah, let's not mention how this guy is a completely different guy, even though he's the same guy. But anyways, yes, no Borg. We get to season 4, which becomes the big switch. We lose Jennifer Lean as Kess, and we bring on Jerry Ryan full time as 7 of 9, who could not breathe sometimes in the outfits that she wore.
Who dated Brandon Braga
Messy,
briefly?
just mess.
Just messy.
This is the
Here-
TV side of it getting messy and bleeding over
yes.
into the show. Because yes, she's, as much as they tried to deny, she was brought on for the sex appeal. Similar to how they kind of did with Worf and DS9. We trying to we trying to infuse something.
Sure.
We brought this character that you all know and love, so we're gonna bring him to. They brought the hot babe. And Jerry Ryan is hot. I'm not gonna lie, just young me.
I've got a story.
Come on.
But no. So I think that this is the height of Voyager. And do you remember like the Paramount store, or the Viacom store?
Yes, I do. Yes.
So when they opened the Viacom store in Chicago, and I think it might have been because, yeah, I think 98, 99, because by that point, Jerry Ryan and 7 and 9 were fully established in Voyager. Yeah, they opened a Viacom store in Chicago, and I was like begging my dad, like we had to go because Jerry Ryan, because she was dating, guy, I forget his name, but he was like a senator or something in Chicago. So she had Chicago ties. So she was invited to the grand opening of the Viacom store in Chicago. Unfortunately, my dad and I got downtown too late. There was a line to meet her out the door and down the block.
Of course.
But we could go in and we could go into the store, just not meet her. So she's like positioned like right next to the escalator and meeting the fans. And my dad's like, hey, and we got to see Jerry Ryan.
Not much. Not
and
much.
and no, she's obviously she's incredibly beautiful, but the plus side, she can act the hell out of anything.
This is true. She brings with 7 and 9 brings a different dynamic range.
And that's really, I think, how a lot of people see Voyager. It's like pre 7 of 9 and post 7 of 9.
Oh yeah.
Like obviously there's a clear shift, but we never, aside from Picard later dealing with like the repercussions of his Borgness, this was a character that she was human and she was fully assimilated most of her childhood
All
and
she knows.
adult life.
All
That's
she
all
knows.
she knows. But I think, and I know a lot of people that say that, it almost becomes like the Janeway and 7 of 9 show, which
Heard the beef of that. Yeah.
season 4 is definitely heavy that. But you have to establish this new character, and that's me trying to defend it. Plus, they're like kind of in the heart of Borg territory at this point, because the gift, the next episode out of Scorpion, gives them a boost of like 10,000 light years, and kind of the edge slash last part of the Borg. But the Borg pretty much got the Delta Quadrant
But
locked.
it's not though, and that's one of my biggest problems with the show.
Sure.
Is it there's I counted. There's only really from season 4 on. So out of the almost 100 episodes of
Sure.
4, 5, 6, and 7, yeah, just about. It's only 17 of those episodes are Borg focused, but I think also because of those 17 and Jerry Ryan and the fact that those
Right.
like they literally last up until the series finale, it makes it feel like damn it, we never got out of Borg space. Like we're supposed to be out of Borg space, but they're always around. It
Yeah.
got just a. I can see why they wore out the welcome a little bit, especially because of 7 2, you're constantly dealing with Borg this, Borg this, Borg this, Borg this, and it's kind of like a little bit of a drag. It's one of the bigger complaints about the back half of the series.
And I totally get it. It's totally valid. But also I love what happens with 7 of 9 as a
Hmm.
character. I love because aside from the Doctor, she's the second character that's kind of coming to terms with humanity and what it means to be
Yeah,
human. And I love how there's that will they, won't they with 7 of 9 and the Doctor. Obviously, the Doctor wanting it more than 7 of 9, but there's some heartbreaking and some really good stories with that, and the development of their friendship and her evolution as she gets more ingrained with the
hmm,
crew and ultimately becomes the member of the crew that is an essential part of Voyager. And um love or hate her, I really love 7 of 9. I was through the moon when she was there for Picard and Jerry Ryan came back and we dove deeper into her humanity. And that's why, like, when we mentioned this in the TNG episode, when I had that list of like the Picard,
oh yeah,
like
it's rewind.
to
Yeah,
prep my wife for Picard, half of those were like Voyager and
you
like
got it.
7 of 9
You got
episodes.
it. Yeah, you got it.
So yeah, it's undeniable that 7 of 9 is an integral part of Star Trek as a whole. But I totally see the opinion that yeah, season 4, it's the Janeway and 7 show.
I definitely do like the 7 Doctor dynamic more so than the Janeway 7 dynamic because
Because that's like mentor
but it's
mentee,
but it's
but
also interesting. Like
also
you literally have this character who's been on his own arc of learning how to be a person.
right. And
Now
then he's trying to
now
teach her.
he's teaching her. Like it is one of my favorite quote unquote relationships on the show or the pairings off. It
Yeah.
it it has as uncomfortable as it can get sometimes with that will they won't they, because sometimes it's kind of like, yo, Doc,
You're being a little weird.
you're being a little creepy there. It
Sure.
definitely has some great payoffs in the fact that it's like, yeah, he's been learning at this himself, and now here he is helping her to do the same thing. And
Mhm.
once again, it's Star Trek really works best when it becomes that reflection of humanity, whether it's humanity against, like the other. It's that
Yeah.
reflection of the other, and the Doctor and Seven represent two good others within the franchise. And really, like, I think without them, this show doesn't get looked at as favorably, because you had some great elements of Star Trek, with the characters. Like, you bring back a Vulcan and Tuvok. You got the
Hmm.
Klingon, even though she's half Klingon, and Balana. You got these we're familiar with, but they're retreads almost. So these were two great areas of something new that they were able to play with. Yeah.
But season 4, it's one of my top Voyager seasons because there are some bangers in this one. You've got Day of Honor,
Oh, that's
which
a
good episode.
but
And
Balana low key has some of the better singular character episodes throughout the franchise. When
yes.
they do pop up, her singular character ones are some of the strongest ones, to me at least, throughout the run. Whether it is dealing with the half Klingon, half human, or in this case, yeah, you're dealing with the traumatic drama of you're the only one who survived because of the Maquis, because of what's happened. Like, she's got some, and the missile, like, she's got some real great character stories for
Yeah.
just.
And Day of Honor is the start of, well, not the start, because they start threading it a little bit at the end of season 3, but Day of Honor kind of cements Balana and Tom's relationship, and so that's a key moment. Year of Hell, one of the best two-parters for Voyager, and
Should have been
it
a whole damn season, as you said
should have.
earlier. That there's so much, like, that is a banging sci-fi premise that, yeah.
it it's such a great two-parter because it shows what a lot of people thought Voyager should be in terms of the D Space Nine. Like, one of the criticisms that we touched upon of Voyager was the ship looks brand new every week.
Every week.
They've got the
Nope.
torpedoes. They've got the and I get it. I just wish we could see more of the grittiness, like them making their own torpedoes, or you know cannibalizing parts of other shuttles to build new ones. So that's a little bit of why I think Year of Hell definitely should have been longer, especially since they queued it up in Before and After in
Oh yeah.
season 3, where they mentioned the Krenom and the time torpedo and the temporal variance and this and that. Like, if not a year, make it like a good 6 episodes.
Oh
You know
yeah.
what I mean? And not just Janeway times up and then like, I wanted at least a little bit of an impact. I do love the fact that the episode exists, just because you could
Oh yeah.
see that what if of like the characters pushed to their extremes. And God, such a cool shot of Voyager just completely obliterating the Krenim
Missing
ship.
the view screen. She's literally just looking out through the force field right into
Oh
space.
my God, so good, so
Yeah.
good.
Year of Hell is the one that points out truly what, to an extent, Voyager could have been. That's not saying Voyager's best. I enjoy Voyager. Voyager is some strong Trek. It holds its place correctly. It's almost like it's at an 8, and
Yeah,
y'all could have went to 9. Just turn up. Just because I think part of the fun, part of the cool thing about Voyager, especially if we talk about bringing something new to the franchise, could have been those moments where, yeah, we're out of photon torpedoes. Let's see some of that Starfleet ingenuity, and we're in a war. Like, how do we
or
survive?
that Maquis
Or that
ingenuity.
Maquis ingenuity, or simply, like, yeah, that I don't try to curse much on this show. Voyager as a ship would have got fucked up on this journey.
Yeah,
You're not,
hundred
you're not,
percent.
you're not just stopping at a star base to get repaired. So it would
Right.
have been cool, like, oh yeah, we had to replace the nacelles, or
And
like
there's some here and there.
yeah,
Like I remember one planet they land and they were replacing the warp coils, and but I wish we got more of that.
yeah, like literally, you could have seen maybe Voyager transform over the journey to the point of where when we're at the end, it's almost like a completely different ship to an extent.
And they
Like
play with that a little bit too, which is frustrating because
yeah,
we saw it in
the Borg,
Scorpion where
with the
the
Borg
Borgified
technology.
Voyager, which was
Yep,
so fucking cool. Why
it's
can't
here
you
and then
just
it's
keep
gone.
why can't you just keep a little bit of that?
Yes,
And they
yes,
do internally because like, but it's like whatever.
yeah. Like so,
No,
yeah,
I get it, I get it.
yeah,
But
but yeah.
also one of my absolute favorite Voyager episodes ever. I could watch this all day, every day. Message in a Bottle. The Doctor.
Oh, fun times, fun times. Again, when Voyager does the Alpha Quadrant connection right, which is
Yes.
75, it does it strong, and yeah, what a cool way to do it.
But
Even though we have another guest star,
Andy did.
right? Of all
But he
people,
was good. But he was good in it. It's like, but yeah, I know what you mean. It's like Andy Dick from Newsroom on Voyager.
yeah, yeah.
Trust me, the promos are terrible. But it also kicks off one of the strongest villain aliens species of all of Voyager, the Herosian,
Again,
which
that
are badass. And we got Tony Todd. Tony Todd was one of them.
his last appearance, yeah. Tony Todd is Herosian, that size, tower, like. I loved, and not even just with Tony Todd, but what I noticed in a couple rewatches is I love how visually they made the Herosians big.
Yeah.
You saw the size differential between the human and the Herosian. Like, okay, yeah, these are some big bad hunters. I again, another piece I would have loved, even though they were there for a period of time. I would have really
Yeah.
loved a hunt, or they play with it every now and then, but yeah, really let them be a presence for a couple episodes, and then they get
But
past in space. But
But
they
yeah, there was a chunk. I mean, right
yeah,
after Message of Ball, you had Hunters, Prey, and then you had the Killing Game two-parter, which another solid. I'll say one thing about Voyager. Voyager does some amazing
oh,
two-parters.
it's two parters are right up there. I think they had the most of any series. I think if I remember, because they have like a good like
I
12.
they almost it's almost like two-parters a year if
Yeah,
you're not counting the season finale.
they're up there with like 12, 13 two parters, which is
Yeah,
the most out of any. But again, I think almost like you spoke about with Deep Space Nine, we really see here the trend that two-parter not at the tail end, that one in the middle being that mid-season break.
yeah.
Happened over the holidays, and yeah, the Killing Game it's a good fun thing to play with.
But the Killing
Trojan, the
Game.
technology, like that's a
The Killing Game, they made that a one night event. It was a one night two-parter, which I loved when Voyager did that. Like young me was like, oh yeah, 2 hours of Voyager, let's
you're in for a
go.
treat. You're in for a treat because at this point, Deep Space Nine's getting ready to get off the air, so
Yep.
Voyager's going to become the main thing. But yeah, seeing Neelix as a Klingon in that episode is fun.
Oh my
They really got
gosh.
to play around with it.
And Voyager did do a little bit more holodeck than some of the other series. They did a little bit more holodeck episodes than TNG, but I thought this was such a cool twist where the aliens are using the holodeck for their own purposes, and they transformed like
Entire ship, pretty
part
much.
or like most of the ship as a holodeck. Really cool, like playing with the idea of the holodeck.
Shortly after that, we get the Omega Directive, which is solid hour of sci-fi. Just that that unknown, and again, a way to connect back to the Federation, but in a way that makes sense with where they are in the randos of space, and being
Yeah,
able.
and just like having all of the screens display the Omega symbol. It was like, whoa, what is happening here? Yeah, really cool episode, and almost being a religious
For seven, yeah, the whole I
for
want to
seven,
see perfection. Yeah, some great tie-ins with the Borg there, and how
like
they
almost a Borg religion in a way.
yeah. Oh yeah, that's very, very, very solid one. Not too. See, I'm looking at the rest of season four. Yeah. One is
One
pretty good. Yeah, one is a good
one is good.
a good horror esque that kind of the mind game type of things with everybody having to be asleep as they go through the nebula, and it's
Oh,
only
that was
doctor.
yes, that was that. Shoot, was am I thinking of a different?
Which one
What's
do you think of?
what's the one where? Oh no, that's season 5. Never mind.
Not there yet. Not there yet. Okay, okay.
I was confusing, but no, one is a good one. And wasn't that wasn't that Jeffrey Combs?
He does make an appearance. I
I
don't
know
think.
he's in the no, that's my bad. He was in the Rock episode.
Yeah.
Uh
Him and JG Hertzler
yes.
are in that episode, and we didn't give Jeffrey his flowers on DS9. We won't do it here. We're gonna save Jeffrey's flowers for Enterprise.
We
Uh,
will.
but
But I will ask you as we wrap up season 4, what did you think of Hope and Fear? Because this it just there wasn't like a to be continued. It was just like that's it. This was one of the few times where there wasn't like a two-parter to open and close a season.
I mean, I'm always a fan sometimes of, especially because at this point, with what you've been done with essentially since Best of Both Worlds,
Hmm.
I don't mind them breaking a trend here. With the whole, you start to get the tease of they're getting closer.
Right.
You
Right.
know, you start to build some of those breadcrumbs as we head to the back half of the series. They're getting closer, and so to kind of get a tease of how they're going to start playing with the Federation, where they are, I enjoy it. I think it sets up nicely as a pace for going into season five, as they continue this long behind journey back to Earth.
Right.
We get to night open since no T-parter. Season five opens up with night, which I think is cool. A region, no star, no stars. Janeway low key recluse in her quarters. Like, I think it's play again. Space allows you to do who knows what's out there. I don't know, and getting to play with some funky stuff. We get drone, which I think is real funky in a good way. In a good way.
It's a good way. I like that. Like I think I think drone. I love the character. I love the concept, but the whole time the doctor's freaking out because it's basically his mobile emitter powering this thing, and it's like, am I losing all my autonomy? Like, what's happening here? but no, I kind of like that premise because you're messing a little bit with like the 29th century tech because they're like, oh my god, a 28th or whatever century Borg, like what's that? And we get to see it, so it's a cool what if.
We get extreme risk again. Enough. B'Elanna gets some of the better. As much as there's no real, I think, overarching arc for her story, her singular ones are some great episodes, and of course, this is one. And we get the creation of the Delta Flyer, a ship that just seems too big for Voyager.
Right.
I love the Delta Flyer.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We're not going to get into the size mechanics of the Delta Flyer because trust me, I've seen the memory article, the Ex Astra Senetia like article about the inconsistencies of the Delta Flyer. I don't give a crap. Delta Flyer is like hands down like my number one Star Trek ship.
Wow.
I mean, even above starships, like if I could have the Delta Flyer in real life, that's what I would want. It's just so cool. It's sleek. It's just, it would be like my Winnebago in space. Like this is I'm going out in the stars. This is my personal cruising ship. The Delta Flyer rocks. I freaking love the Delta Flyer.
You can have, of course, that Tom Paris influence, but yeah, no, I'm with you. The Delta Flyer is a cool, like, I don't even want to call it shuttlecraft. It's just a cool
It's a cool ship.
ship in the vein of a runabout to an extent, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's a cool, sleek ship,
yeah. Well,
and I'm
one
for it.
of the, I think it was it in Lower Decks? Like you saw a couple like Delta Flyer type. Was that Picard? There was one thing recently where, like, it's almost like they put the Delta Flyer in mass production, or you saw a couple more of them, and I was like, yeah, yeah, do that. No, it's a cool ship. Um,
In the flesh.
yes, A472.
That should have been in season 4. Because at this point, I'm like, why are
Yes.
they hanging up? Like, why are they, again, one of my issues with the show is where is Voyager? Sometimes it's like, you put that earlier in season 4, yeah, that works. But at this point, why are they still a thing? And it's like the only other time they show up, and it's kind of like, okay.
Yeah, it's not the best. I do feel I agree with you that maybe in season 4 is kind of a wrap up to 8472. Like, maybe they're a little closer to Earth and like,
Yeah.
they didn't get the memo or whatever. But yeah. Timeless.
Oh, yes. LeVar.
Another timey-wimey Borgy thing, but I love this episode just because of how much it gives Chakotay and Ensign Kim.
I love Ensign Kim's character development here. Like, because he is super green as the ensign on Voyager. And we get to see him now as, kind of the more grizzled,
Yeah,
and really taking to heart the fact that he doesn't feel like he was able to get the crew home. And yeah, another way of playing with bringing in familiar things. So yeah, you get the quick cameo from Captain LaForge, like wearing the one of the things I love about what Voyager did was they didn't do the switch over. They stuck in the Delta Quadrant. They stick with the same uniforms.
yes.
But
Even after they got in contact with
right.
Starfleet.
And you see them wearing, the gray tops with the colored, turtleneck underneath. And I love how they played with that a little bit because, yeah, they easily probably could have sent the patterns over, but they didn't. And I love that. But yeah, you get to see a great character, as cool as a great as a character as Geordi is from TNG at this point. It's he's not the one you would probably pick to pop up like that. So it's great to see him in this position, especially because LeVar
when
directed
he's
the episode.
because when he's directing it, you gotta be like, well, since I'm here,
Listen here, let me put on these 4 pips. Yeah, Captain LaForge. I love it.
I love it for him.
But I'm just thinking with Timeless, Voyager's probably the show we've seen the most alternate versions of a ship and crew in Star Trek, because there's like so many of these, like, oh yeah, bad Voyager, good Voyager, future Voyager, Voyager that crashed, Voyager that got destroyed on the way home and didn't quite make it. But yeah, Timeless is just, yeah, with the Klingons and daughters. Yeah,
So good. The arc that I like for Tom Paris starts in this season with 30 Days and him getting bumped down to ensign. And that being one of those story points that continues because he's ensign for, I think, the rest of the season.
Yeah, he doesn't get promoted. He's ensign for the rest of the season.
And then he gets promoted. I think back in season 6, he earns.
It's towards the back end, but
Sure,
it's not a quick thing. This, as you mentioned earlier, at this point, I think they start to take some of this
the notes from
DS9, and 2, this is 98, end of 98. So it's not just Voyager. If you look at a bunch of shows in this time at this point, sitcoms, whatever, you're starting to see more serialized stuff across the board. And so, yeah, like I said, it's that back half of the sandwich, and I'm like, okay, yep, you're giving us some more of what I think you could have throughout the entire run because the nature of the environment is changing and you're no longer on this edict of, well, we're trying to give them what they were used to, of what they've, trying to make another TNG or a TOS. It's now, it's like, okay, we can really start to play with this as we should. And the show really benefits from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the big like, because this whole time they've been doing the Captain Proton, which, it's in the vein of like Dixon Hill. It's like
Yep.
one of those
Robin
things.
Hood, all them, yeah.
Yeah, so I like, just because of Tom Paris' obsession with 20th Century, I like that it's a stupid space serial. Like,
But you need
it's,
those. You
and you
need
need
those.
those. But Bride of Chaotica is one of my favorite holodeck episodes, just because we get to see Janeway like actually
Over the top.
over the top, and she gets into it because there's a little detail in Prodigy where in her ready room on the Voyager
Oh
A,
yeah.
she's got the spider
Spider
brooch.
thing, yeah.
And so I think it's cool. I like that had kind of an effect on her.
Again, providing opportunities where your characters can step outside themselves a little bit. Again,
Yeah.
this an episode like Bride of Chaotica is not getting made today.
No.
This is that. Yeah, we got some filler, or we're just gonna have this one off that doesn't really connect to anything. It doesn't have to be, even though it's that theme of Tom Paris's holodeck program, which we have seen before. But it's that it doesn't have to connect to anything, and yeah, it allows them to have some fun. I'm with it. I'm with you there. That it provides some laugh, and it's in the black and white too. So it's like it's always fun sometimes just to see black and white stuff on TV. It's yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good watch. Dark Frontier.
Yes. Yes. Um it's
This is really where the Borg problems I think start to come in, because you're bringing back the Borg Queen. You're trying
sure.
to find a foil, and it's because of the success of they're trying to inject the things that we know that people love.
I I I like it, and I don't, because I do get the criticisms about like the Borg oversaturation, but I think this is a good two-parter in terms of dealing with the repercussions of Seven leaving the collective. And because we have seen the Borg Queen like keep some of these vendettas like Locutus, and 7 and 9 is yet again another human who has broken
Yeah,
free, but knows more of their secrets because
been in there
I
so long. Yeah,
yeah. And so I like that they brought back or we get to see more of her life, because they touched upon it in the season 4 episode The Raven, where we actually saw her parents crash ship, but now here we get to see those events leading up to it, which I think is a nice touch.
does the Raven cause problems for you? Or the Hanson story to an extent. Let me put it that way. The Hanson story.
So yes and no, because yeah, they were out searching for the Borg like 10 years before the Enterprise D, actually made first contact with the Borg. But, they kind of say it in the show and they kind of step around it because, maybe they were just really chasing rumors of a species like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can live with it because, if because there would be rumors of the Borg because of people like Guinan and the Elurians, who we saw all the way back in as
Okay,
refugees
I'll
in
give you that.
Enterprise B.
Eric with the headcanon. There we go. It makes
So
sense. Okay.
I think they were. I think they were Federation scientists. Well, they weren't even Federation. They were civilian scientists who were trying to prove rumors and a theory, and they got sucked into that trans warp. So they were already in a Voyager situation of their own because they got a little bit too close to that Borg ship and went like, whoop, we're out there.
You brought me in, sir. You brought me in. Well done. Well done.
I've had 30 years to defend Voyager.
Well done. That works. Hey, I said, just make it work. That works.
Just make it work.
That works. Okay, I can't complain.
We had Course Oblivion, which is the silver people from that one episode. Demon from Demon.
Yeah.
So again, we get consequences and follow-ups because most of this episode you think, oh yeah, this is the Voyager crew, what's up? And then you're like, oh shoot, this ain't it. And then we spend most of the episode with this alternate crew, and then by the time the real Voyager gets there, they've already started misting away. Yeah. It's bittersweet. I think it's a good follow-up type of episode.
Speaking of follow-ups, we get Relativity, the return of Captain Braxton, 7 of 9. Another good time travel one. Like it's yeah. I like when Voyager does time travel.
Yes. Yes. And I love that we got to see Utopia Planitia.
Mm-hmm.
We got to see that from space with all the ship. I love that. What did you think of 1159?
It's not one that I care to watch too often.
Yeah, it's
it jumps out as fluff and filler to me, and it's one of those fluff.
It's a bit of fluff. Yeah. I get what they were trying to do with Janeway, but it's a little bit too convenient because it's like, oh look, we found this in the Federation database, and it's a picture, and I'm like, really? Is the database that zip filed and compressed?
Right, and you think technology would be not 90s tech of the future. That's what we view it as. Equinox. We're ending season 5 with Equinox. Oh, what happens if Voyager goes bad? That's like, and I love like that. It's almost a way of doing a mirror universe without doing a mirror universe, like because they set it up in the premise. Yeah, the caretaker had been bringing in ships from all over, so why wouldn't another Federation ship possibly have gotten caught up and sent to who knows where? And yeah, we ran into one another, and we've both been having these issues, but we haven't really kind of been sticking to the rules of you guys have. We've just been getting by. Great premise. I want to know if this Captain Ransom is is that Ransom's dad from Lower Decks? Like, can we have a talk here? like maybe I don't know. Man, is that long lost daddy? I mean, I don't know. You gonna make me go back and watch Lower Decks now to think, did they ever do like a one-liner, be like, yeah, my daddy went away and got off?
I don't think they did.
But that'd be great though.
I mean, Ransom is a pretty targeted last name. I'll just say that.
Same asshole tendencies to it.
Look, I will say Equinox is a great two-parter. It's classic good versus evil. We know what the sides are. We know what the conflicts are, and
good time with the Nova class ship.
Yeah,
with the Nova class.
Yeah, we get, and that's the thing. It's an even smaller ship, scientific ship than Voyager. Like they got the super short end of the stick, so you kind of sympathize with them. Like, okay, maybe you guys had to be a little down and dirty to survive. And they got ahead of Voyager. Like, so that's like if Janeway was like, you know what, Prime Directive, F it, let's go. That's what it would have been.
I'm just going to get y'all home by any means necessary.
Yeah.
Great episode. We get some more Borgy stuff. Survival Instinct. Barge of the Dead, which is a decent one. Tinker Tenor Dr. Spy is a
It's it's a funny Doctor episode.
Yes. I like the ECH though. I think that's cool.
And we do see the effects of that. I mean, Starfleet does implement that at some point. So, yeah. And I love the title. It's such a great, I think it's just a nice, funny Doctor episode.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Skipping ahead, Voyager Conspiracy is a fun one.
It's a fun one, but I remember at the time not liking it because it was like Seven is going completely off the walls, but she does raise some good questions. And we all love a good mystery, but we also love a good conspiracy.
Every conspiracy needs that little bit of. As much as I don't want to buy in, there's that.
I thought One Small Step was a good one.
Yeah, that's enjoyable. That's enjoyable.
I think Dragon's Teeth was a waste because they were trying to introduce another villain and then they never followed up.
Here and gone
with the Vardoir.
Yeah, they never caught on. We get Pathfinder.
Yes.
Which begins a trend as we, even though we're still in season 6, it starts now that ramp up of, I guess, finishing out the voyage.
Yeah.
But I like the use of Barclay in Voyager.
Oh, of course.
It makes sense and gives you a piece of Starfleet and of Earth living that you never really saw. Like, you don't, like, yeah, why wouldn't they have Starfleet science stations on Earth? And, somebody got to coordinate this stuff and all that, all that jazz. I think it's a nice peek and using familiar characters once again in aiding the story.
And that's what I love about it because we saw Barclay, even though a hologram version earlier in the show. So I liked when this came up, and I liked that it started a mini arc in Voyager to quote unquote bring him home, and having Marina Sirtis come back too, because now I think this was around the time of Insurrection or just after Insurrection. So because Insurrection was 98, yeah,
this is just after.
So I like that. These characters that we've grown up with and that we've seen in other shows, because it makes that universe feel bigger. And even though Voyager is off in the Delta Quadrant, there's still people on Earth that are looking for them and never gave up hope. And I like that it kind of circles back to TNG in a way with these characters.
Bringing it full circle, there's life going on all throughout the universe, and once again, like Voyager does it when it does it well, which is most of the time. Besides the couple, it works well. Should we? Yeah, Tsunkatsu, The Rock comes to Voyager. Star Trek 7 and 9 versus The Rock. I hated it.
No, this. And here's the thing. This is one of this is I think the one time that Jeffrey Combs is in Voyager. Wasted Jeffrey Combs opportunity. Wasted. So glad he's back. He came back for Enterprise. But I mean, this was just an event episode. It sucked. It sucked.
It was gratuitous because The Rock is in there playing The Rock. He's doing because
he's got the people's eyebrow. Like, come on,
eyebrow. I think he might even drop the elbow. It was just
he does.
Oh, come on.
And this was such a UPN stunt because they had Raw at the time. This is when The Rock was at his popularity. I remember the dumb commercials for this episode. I mean, it was all about The Rock. It was stunt. And I think when people think of the worst of Voyager, they think of something like this.
This is just pure. Because you're talking the turn of the millennium here.
It was it's so bad and memorable that they recreate this in Young Rock. There's a scene where they literally, and obviously it's a little bit distinct. They've got a 7 and 9 in there. I swear to God, there's an episode of Young Rock where they touch upon him filming this episode. No joke.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
talk about full circle. It's bad.
that's a bad one. Let's see. We get more board. We get Child's Play, so we get some bored kids because now Seven needs to mentor
Collective,
people.
that starts in collective.
Yeah. Collective and Child's Play and season 6 is a bit of a drag for me. I'm not.
It it's a mixed bag for me. Um, it is a mixed bag for me. I like Good Shepherd. I like the captain kind of taking this lower decks type characters. That's like their lower decks episode in a way. So, and I like that Voyager did have a consistent cast of like background
Yeah.
characters, because you would always see like the same Maquis security guy take over Tuvok station, and like he finally got a speaking line in like one of the in season 7, and so you see familiar faces in the background of Voyager, and this was a way to kind of highlight some lower deck type characters.
What I do like about Good Shepherd, and this only sticks out because I just saw the premiere Caretaker earlier, was how in Caretaker, Janeway is complaining at the end of the first part about how like Harry's lost possibly, and he's new. She hasn't got to know him yet, and she wants to make an effort to get to know the members of her crew because it's a good crew. And so to me, Good Shepherd is one of those ones was like she's following up on that. Here she
Right.
has 3 members of her crew, which she doesn't know as well and aren't performing to the standard. So what can I do as the good captain, knowing this is something I care about and is important to me as we are the only ship out here. So yeah, it's a good thread, even though it's not like a long thread. It's just the one
Sure.
two thread. It does pick that up for me, which I do like. We get Louis Zimmerman in Lifeline, which is and seeing the Doctor meet his creator, which is always good. Robert Picardo getting to kind of do the Brent Spiner type of thing.
And well, on that, they did a few things in Lifeline that kind of advanced at the time the technology of split screen, quote unquote, characters, where they would like lock the camera and he would perform, because there's a couple instances where they like pass each other or interact with each other, and they did that because they locked the shots and he performed the scene both ways, and it was a little like a little bit innovative at the time, before you know blue screen really took off
Right.
and you could do these digitally and stuff. But I like this for the progression of Troy's character, because we get to see her do actual counseling.
We probably saw her do. We probably saw Troy do more counseling in
In
the
Voyager.
couple of appearances she made in Voyager than all of TNG. Like, yeah.
It's true.
Oh, Counselor Troy is actually a counselor. Okay. Okay, it's not a crock of BS. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I'm with you there. Good character development. We end season 6 with Unimatrix Zero. It's a decent two-parter, but I don't necessarily care for it too much. It does some cool things. Like I think the whole cool thing about there is a population of Borg which are resisting, and you have this place that they can
Right.
go. I think it's kind of cool.
But they don't remember it when they're on the outside, and so you got the queen being obsessive and like trying to find, and she's like dissecting their skulls and this and that. I love the premise. I hate that Tuvok, Janeway, and B'Elanna get like what looks to be fully assimilated, and there's like no repercussions after that. And I know there was some like talk in the episode where there was like a retrovirus or whatever, but there's no like long lasting Borg consequences. You know what I mean?
Okay, it's my turn to play canon time. Because it kind of explained it how they planned for it. So I think if you could, in a sense, while
Yeah.
not fully being able to block any effects, I think I can headcanon it away is they were able to block out enough that it isn't affecting to the extent that Locutus and John Luke relationship. Like they were in, but they weren't in. Um
Yeah, but it's just the fact that it was like we got full body suit Borgified. You know what I mean? It was just like a little bit too much. I get it. By this point, the Doctor has so much experience with the Borg because of 709 and medical knowledge and
mhm.
all of that stuff. He could reverse it pretty well. And I think there's even a joke in part two, the opening of season 7, where he's like, "Oh, I did a pretty good job, like, reconstructing or whatever." I get it. It's just I'm like, I didn't like that shot at the end because I remember watching this for the first time when, by this point I was finishing high school and being like, what? Like, it's just like them all turning and they're Borgified. I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah, no, yeah. I remember some of the promos. There's like a big, oh, what? Janeway and Tuvok and B'Elanna are going to be Borg. Yeah. Again, it's one that it's getting the Borg is getting a little tiresome at this point. It's
Sure.
like I think if you had done a serious arc in season 4, maybe even getting away with it some early season 5, where it's like a good stretch of these because you're really in Borg space, you're gonna run into it all the time. Great, but at this point, it's kind of like, well, we're not away from it yet. Like this ain't just a random cube. Like we're still
Right.
clearly dealing with the throes of the quote unquote Borg Empire, Borg space. It doesn't quite make sense.
Yeah.
Season 7, yes, the final season of Star Trek Voyager, ramping up as the crew is getting home. No major arc as was teased like in Deep Space Nine, but we do get a solid path of things beginning to happen. The
Right.
communication with the Federation, you're getting we can actually talk face to face. We're getting communications back and forth, updated schematics and things of that nature.
Regular communiques,
Yeah.
regular
As
updates. Yeah.
what's a standout for you in 7?
Drive is a fun one. I like the race car, Delta Flyer, and I love those freaking flight
Oh,
suits.
the
I'm
black
so
red, yeah.
I'm so glad that in lower decks when the multiple Harry Kims, there was one in the racing suit. I was like, yeah, that's a cool suit. I'm glad that's back.
Very, very clean, very clean.
Very clean. I thought Shattered was a great, like, um kind of
Yes.
look back in Voyager's past. It was a very unique concept that they replicated in Prodigy, which I thought was a nice callback to
Mm-hmm.
Shattered. So good as a Voyager sequel, but it gave Chakotay something to do. But I love the different in your final season, seeing and reflecting on what's
Where you've
happened
been.
before and
Yeah.
the different time periods. So I really like Shattered as an episode.
Very nice touch. We get lineage then with, B'Elanna and Tom having a baby and B'Elanna dealing with that. Again, some great character stuff there from her.
And then following that up with Prophecy and seeing that her kid might be a Klingon Messiah. Again, really cool concepts that they're playing with. And a lot of this season, season 7, is about bringing all those family connections together. We're tying up the loose ends, and I haven't gone through, but I'm sure if someone counted the number of times they say family in Voyager, it would be through the charts. but season 7, they're really leaning on the family aspect. Like it started a bit in season 6 when you brought the Borg children
Yeah.
on, but then some of them left, and then it was just
Just Icheb.
Icheb, and then but then you've got Naomi, who we haven't really talked a lot about this episode, but I thought she was a great character throughout these later seasons as like Neelix's goddaughter, and we didn't see her much, but when she was there, it just reminded you that Voyager is just more than this Starfleet Maquis crew.
Season 7, yes, is certainly where Voyager earns the family dynamic.
Yeah.
Naomi gets on my nerves sometimes, but it makes sense within the story because yeah, you're the only kid here. You would probably be a prissy little brat thinking you're the captain's like but it makes because yeah, you're the only one here. It makes sense. I get it. Um but yeah, season 7 really is the one that sells you like, okay, yes, this crew is a family. They bonded. Like if it wasn't for season 7, I don't know if Voyager's crew earned that title. I think 7
Yeah.
is where it truly locks it down.
Voyager also being so family that we get Q's son this season as well in Q2, played by John Delancey's
Fancy's son,
actual son. It's great.
they're playing with some things nicely. You also get the workforce two-parter. Like Voyager does some great episodes running into these civilizations where they, they're doing some wild and crazy stuff. The other side of some things. It's not all above board.
I think Workforce is a very underrated Voyager two-parter.
Yeah, yeah. One thing that Voyager does not touch upon too often, though, is the Star Trek trope of the kind of the courtroom episode.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we get a solid one in one of the few times that they do in Arthur this season.
Yes.
Is kind of a slight build upon the Measure of a Man, but just framed a little bit with the whole rights thing. But I think that's a solid kind of in that vein of
Absolutely.
the Doctor's development and what that means for holograms, which kind of in a sense goes on to be explored later with some repercussions that we see in Picard and whatnot.
Yeah, and also a really good one for that is I think it's is Renaissance Man, which is the penultimate episode, but that really shows just how far the Doctor has come in his journey.
Oh yeah, the best arc in all the series.
Yeah.
Now, before we get to the finale, we talked a little bit about Neelix leaving, and that's in the previous episode, Homestead. Why are there Talaxians here?
Yeah, I mean, they don't really. That's that's one thing that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and maybe it was some offshoot Talaxian thing, and they found some shortcuts too. But yeah, it's as a send off for Neelix, it's great.
Beautiful, yeah, beautiful, great.
But yeah, by this point, they're really close to the border of the Delta Beta quadrant at this
Right.
point. And so, yeah, unless this was some far flung Talaxian, offshoot or scout party or whatever, it doesn't hold up.
End game. Series finale, Star Trek Voyager.
Yes.
It low key kind of comes out of nowhere a little bit.
A little bit.
If you didn't like outside of counting the episodes and knowing season 7 is the final season, it kind of pops up out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on the end of Voyager, sir?
So I love Endgame, but I also dislike it because literally the final shot is Voyager with a bunch of other ships heading towards Earth.
And that's it.
We
Yeah.
don't see any of the repercussions. We don't see the fallout. We don't see the reunions. Like Tom Paris says hi to his dad for like 2 seconds and then they don't talk about it again. Like it feels a little rushed to me. There is the spectacle with like the Borg and future Janeway, and to me I was so like Voyager hungry by that point that I'm so glad that they did like the Voyager relaunch novels like from Pocket Books at the time, which was done by Kristen Bear, who's become a huge part of current Star Trek as a consultant and story consultant. But she wrote like a lot of the Voyager relaunch novels that continued the story after Voyager. And I'm not saying get Voyager home in the middle of this season and deal with the whole fallout, because the premise of the show is
Supposed to
getting
get
home.
home.
When they're home, they're home. But I
It'd be
wish
nice.
I wish the finale was more like an epilogue of them home. You know
You
what I
need it.
mean?
You need it because home is talked about a lot, but we don't know really what home holds for any of these characters. Because even like, because we don't meet them at home, we meet them at Deep Space Nine in the beginning. So like this whole, we don't know what.
And we do see characters little snippets of home
Yeah,
throughout the show with like fake Earths and like what that one where Kim went back to San Francisco and
yeah.
we saw Libby and all that.
Tom
But
Paris in the bar he was at, it's during his academy days and stuff.
but I just I wish part one of Endgame was like wrapping that whole Borg bullshit, and then part two was the true we're home and this is the feelings that we deal with of being home. I just don't know how they would do that to wrap up the series. Because of course the shot is up, Voyager sailing home. That was their whole goal. End credits with a bunch of other Starfleet ships. And it sucks that we don't get any canonical repercussions for years and years and years later. Picard, Lower Decks, Prodigy. Why did it take 30 years to see the repercussions of Voyager coming home?
You're missing the beauty that we got in the Deep Space Nine finale. Like you had all this action, you had all this, but we still had that 10-minute end where it was like wrapping
Yeah.
it up for the character. You needed something like that here because yes, it is very abrupt. Like, okay, yep, we're home.
And
And that's
I
it.
remember because this aired like, I was in college at this point, and I remember one of my like design projects in college, it was like to create a movie poster. I created a end game finale poster for one of my
Nice.
college projects. And I remember getting a bunch of friends come over to my house and we watched the Voyager end game finale. Like it was a big deal. And I remember right after that it's been a long road. Like they did a little tease of Enterprise, like coming
Was it
soon.
that quick? Did you
Yeah,
know
it
that?
was literally it was a very trailer. It wasn't there was no footage. It was just like Enterprise coming soon to UPN. It was like this fall. Like because they were in pre-production of it, but I do
Yeah.
remember there was like a tease for Enterprise, and I was like, okay, but Voyager though.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't realize because this is May of 2001. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, Voyager done in a pre 9/11 world. You got older
Oh
Janeway,
man,
young
yeah.
Janeway. It's I mean it's cool episodes. You got the whole the shields on
Oh
Voyagers.
my God, the
That's
Batmobile armor
oh yeah,
again.
that's
Another Voyager exclusive, like another
yeah.
alternate Voyager. I've got the master replicas like armored Voyager little model to go
Uh,
next to my other model. It's cool. That effect
yeah,
was
no.
like it's like
I,
like it was so cool.
I remember when I'll be playing with the my Micro Machines version. I would in my head like, yep, armor. Yeah,
Like
that's
I love the effect. I
yeah.
I might watch it. I might watch it after this. There's a lot of cool things about Endgame. I just wish they took one more note from D Space Nine and had like a 10-minute epilogue.
It's symptomatic of the whole series for me. It's like
Yeah,
you're good, but just
you
a little bit
a little
more,
bit.
a little bit more, and to be like,
Pull some more out of the warp core,
yeah,
Scotty. Like, come on.
just inch bit more. But there we go. 7 seasons, 172 episodes. Star Trek Voyager.
Yeah, it's one of my top ones just because like I said at the beginning, I was just so like conscious for all of this. I made the conscious decision to watch this. Like I was there from the beginning. So
Yeah.
this was the one where I feel like I was, because when I was a kid, yeah, I was there for the premiere of Next Generation when I was 5. But it wasn't like I was absorbing all of this or catching
Yeah.
every episode. A lot of that happened in my childhood because of syndication. Voyager, I was there almost
Wow.
every Wednesday, you know?
I certainly remember, the finale being a big deal. I remember us,
Mhm.
because yeah, 2 hour again, 2 hour movie. I remember us watching that, 'cause of course Mama loved Voyager, the strong female character. Um, yeah, it's good, solid Trek. Like it helps expand the Trek universe. It doesn't necessarily, it's not a leaps and bounds push, but it is a very high quality.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
got this out here. There is more to explore. You can play, and it's an enjoyable series. It's honestly one. I don't think it's a bad entry door. If somebody was to get into it, you may not
Yeah.
catch everything, but I don't think it's a bad entry door into the franchise. But overall, it's certainly. I don't mean it's very middle of the road. Like it's just enjoyable. It's lows are low. It's got some high highs, but for the most part, it's just yeah, we cruising. This is Star Trek.
And I like how Voyager rounds out kind of the height of 90s Star Trek,
Oh,
because
we gonna get to that next month. Yeah.
I know, but it's like TNG, Alpha, Beta quadrants, Deep Space Nine went a little bit into Gamma. We didn't get a lot of Gamma, but we got
Yeah.
enough. And then Voyager was all Delta. So by the end of Voyager, you see a more complete Milky Way galaxy of Star Trek.
Voyager certain marks the end of an era for sure.
Yeah.
It marks the end of an era, and like I said, we're going to get deep into that era next month when we talk about the TNG movies. But before we get out of here, we got to do what we got to do, and that is rank stuff. So let's see
Mm-hmm.
here. Boom, boom, boom. Into our crews as we currently stand. Eric has a crew of Jean-Luc Picard as his captain, Riker as his first officer, Spock as his science officer, Chief O'Brien as the engineer, Dr. Crusher as the CMO, Dax as the helmsman, Data as tactical ops, Odo security, Uhura comms, and Garrick as your utility rando. I have Cisco as my captain, Worf as first officer, Spock science, Scotty, I'm gonna just leave that down. Scotty is my engineer, McCoy is my CMO, Dax helmsman, Data shared there, Odo, Uhura, and Garrick as well, rounding out the back. We're aligned there. There's one change I'm going to make with the possibility of adding Voyager crew, and that's I'm going to change out my CMO to
Oh,
the
the
doctor.
Doctor.
The doctor is the man. The doctor, he's just
The
yeah, he is
Doctor. Um,
versatility. He's a good versatile. He does it all. He's a little rough around the edges, but he can come through in a pinch.
you
You
know
never
what?
know. That's just where I am.
I will also make that change.
Okay. Okay.
I'm changing my helmsman from Dax to Paris.
Not mad at you. I'm not. I thought about it. I thought about it. I thought about it. I'd like to
He's
get Tuvok in there too, but I don't.
all right.
It's
My
not.
my question is, because I always say, Janeway, oh Captain, my Captain.
Oh, are you sure?
Does she out Captain Picard for me? And I love Janeway, but I would follow Picard until the ends of the earth. Like I love Janeway. I'm Janeway all day, every day. But Picard though. So
Not mad at you.
uh who else would I change? Because
Yeah.
I do want to pepper in a little bit of I will actually change my utility from Garrick to 7 of 9.
Ooh. Okay. Interesting. I was thinking about maybe throwing Neelix in there, but to me, Garrick is a better version of Neelix. Garrick,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
Neelix is a solid utility. Yeah, you need that kind of requisition some stuff, guys.
I'm also thinking of Seven as my Borg utility knife,
Also
like
not
Swiss
bad at
Army
all.
knife.
Not bad at all. Like, yeah, that's a
And then
Odo and Seven would be an interesting pairing to see.
that would be
that'd be
that
an
would be.
interesting pairing to see. Yeah,
Oh, mm, I think. Mm, I think that's all the shakeup I'm gonna do
yeah,
for now. I I'm with you. I want Tuvok in there somewhere, but I
yeah,
like Odo as security,
yeah,
and Data is really good at ops.
yeah. Yeah, I think I'm locked in there too. Okay, okay, just a couple changes there.
Okay.
Series ranking right now, we both have it the same: DS9, TNG, TOS.
Hmm.
I don't mean DS9, TNG are staying at 1 and 2 here.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, right now, and there's no disrespect to Voyager. Voyager for me is fourth.
Oh, I would actually put Voyager above TOS.
Not magic, not magic. I'm just thinking
I
of
know.
the shows that I would watch. Like I'm just thinking, I'm turning on Pluto and I got to pick one of the Star Trek channels. Voyager is generally one of the last ones.
Okay.
Like I said, it's no disrespect.
Sure.
Yeah. Hero ship.
Hmm.
I'm sticking. I'm sticking. I like Voyager. Voyager sleek. It's going right in the middle for me. A Defiant, Voyager, D, OG. I guess right now, which is surprising.
It's
I did.
above the D. Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying for you?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh,
Voyager
okay.
comes in at number 3 right now. It's like you said. It's sleek. It gives you it all. It's right there. Even though she's small, it's a good designed ship, and I like I said once again that the way the engines fold. It gives you different dynamics, and the way the engines fold up still gives you that traditional look when you need it.
I'm actually putting it
Oh,
at the
boom.
top of my list.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay,
It's above the D for me, like it was for you.
I know it's not
But
gonna stay there though.
huh?
I know it's not going to stay there though. I know what you probably going to put as number 1 overall.
What do you think? Knowing me, what do you think?
We'll talk about that next week
Okay.
or next month. Next month. Next month. Next month.
Okay.
I
Okay.
have a thought. I know what's coming at number 1. I don't know whether it'll stay there, but I know I have a strong
Okay.
belief it'll be number 1
We
at least.
we will see. We will see. We will see. Uh,
Dean, this one is difficult.
I know. I know.
This is difficult.
For me, TNG stays number 1, but Voyager outpaces DS9 for me.
Oh, I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. Um, I think I'm going to keep DS9 at number 2
Okay.
just because there is something hauntingly chilling about
I know it's a good theme.
the original with the solo trumpet. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna keep DS9 number 2, Voyager number 3, TOS.
Okay. Okay. I am not mad about that for you. Okay.
Okay, and now we get to touch one we haven't touched before, simply just because now we have all of them. Uniforms.
All of them, even though
Oh,
we
not I mean
have.
not all of them. We have the majority now of this
Okay. Okay.
in
Okay.
this
Okay.
era.
Oh
Let me
yeah.
rephrase. Sorry. Of this era.
Okay.
So we
Sure.
have the TOS uniforms. We have the movie unit, the Monster Maroon, TNG
Hmm.
style. We'll
First
call
contact D Space Nine
well, yeah,
style.
the first contact DS9 and the Voyager style. Voyager for me is number 1. I'm not gonna lie.
Nice.
It is that perfect mixture of that pop of color without too much. Like Star Trek needs the color, And I think that version of the uniform is just enough to where it also doesn't look ridiculous.
I agree with you, but Voyager is number 2 for me
Okay.
because there is something about those damn First Contact D Space Nine uniforms. I love the hell out of them. I know they're super utilitarian, but goddamn, First Contact was so good for me that just locked in the First Contact uniform for me.
I'm not mad at you. That is a badass uniform. I'm gonna put it at number 2 for now,
Okay, okay.
and then I'm gonna go.
TNG.
No, I actually am going to go
Monster
TOS.
Maroon. TO.
TOS.
Oh, okay. We got
TOS.
original series here.
Then, oh damn, it's hard.
I know it's really hard, right? This is a
That
tough decision.
that Monster Maroon is clean. That Monster Maroon is clean.
I'm actually putting Monster Maroon third for me.
I'm with you. Monster Maroon third, TOS fourth, TNG fifth, which is probably a little surprising.
That is surprising because I'm putting TNG fourth and TOS last. And it's not to say I don't. Wait, you're putting TNG last, you said?
Yeah. Yes, I'm putting TNG last for now.
And Monster Maroon third?
Yeah. I'm with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's not that I dislike the TOS uniforms. It's just in this like main era of Star Trek, these first 35 years,
Yeah.
they're a bit dated.
Very, very, very much so. I do not disagree with you there.
I will say, depending on when we get to future shows, maybe other versions of the TOS might be higher. Wink.
I would not disagree with you there. Okay, we cannot touch Enterprises because there is no Enterprise in this show. The bridge. I'm not gonna lie. Voyager's bridge is last for me. I am not a fan of
Whoa!
it. Is I have never been a fan of the two-seaters. I don't like the
I
two,
can
I don't like the two-seater. I can do the one. I can do the
the
three.
three, but not the two.
The two just doesn't give me. It gives me driver's seat. It gives me and I hate
I
that
get
Janeway
it.
sits on the right side, like she's sitting on the European version of this. It's like it just never works for me. And from a visual standpoint, I don't feel like we ever saw the entire bridge. Like it never really fit into camera in one shot. Like it was always bits or pieces. I never felt like we got that good panoramic. Like, yep, here's the bridge, one shot. And that's just something I appreciate. Like
Sure.
Voyager, it's too wide for me. I am not a fan of the wider bridge in Voyager's case.
Meanwhile, Voyager Bridge is second for me. No, I love the Enterprise D bridge, solid bridge. Voyager is too wide, but for 4x3, if Voyager were a widescreen show,
It might be different.
it would
Might
work.
be different. It might be different.
But overall, I love the layout of Voyager's bridge. I love the lighting that they're able to do to it. When they do blue alert,
Blue, red. Voyager gets the lighting. Voyager has
yes,
consistently the best lighting in
yes.
Star Trek. Like, yeah, the way
But when they land and they do blue alert, that is the coolest shit to me. And even I really like, they don't show it often, but I love the dome that Voyager has, like the scientific.
you never get to see it. Like the stations at the front, you don't really get like B'Elanna's occasionally, but it's such an underutilized bridge to me to an extent.
Sure.
It never really.
No, I can see it. I can see it. I just liked all the nice aluminum everywhere. I like the aluminum, the clean metallic look to
Voyager
it.
Voyager has the right aesthetic, I think, in terms of visually how it's comfy. There's still carpet, but
Yeah.
it's not the cruise ship carpet of the D. It has that nice like, okay, yes, this is a comfortable place to be, but it's also for business. We here to do some things. It's a good.
Yeah, yeah. And I do like how like the captain's room and the ready room kind of slope downwards off to the side. Like when you see the bridge module on like if you because I have a model of Voyager and I've got like the
Oh,
tiny
it's
ones.
got that Y shape. Yeah,
Yeah, it's got that Y shape and there's one shot in Voyager, I forgot what episode it is, but they like zoom in from the outside to Jane and you see like Janeway in her ready room and they kind of like zoom in up to it. Like I love the scale of it and how it lays out. So
Now I will say I hate the meeting room on the left side of the bridge, but I love Janeway's ready room. Janeway's ready room is
I could
probably
get some work done in there.
like that. Like yeah, got
I
the
could be productive in
got
there.
the desk, got the two layers. You got your couch. You go like yeah, Janeway's ready room. Yeah,
Yeah. It's good
that's
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's perfection. Okay. Any final thoughts before we get out of the Delta Quadrant?
No, I think a good lesson for Voyager is what Harry Kim says towards the end of the series. It's to the journey, and um, there's life is a voyage, and I think we learn something as we continue to voyage on. So I love Voyager. It's great, and it's some good trek. It's good,
That's right.
solid trek.
Yeah, it's good, solid Trek. It doesn't let me down in the franchise. It's
Even
a
the
good watch.
just if you take one thing away from all of this, even the worst of Voyager is better than Section 31 movie.
And that is the note to get out on. Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir. From 60,000 light years, thank you for joining and spending some time with us and our review of Star Trek Voyager. Next month, we are going to touch the TNG movies and also this era as a whole because it kind of encapsulates everything.
Yes.
That's going to be a interesting in and out of the universe discussion, which I'm really looking forward to because
Me
it's
too.
yeah, special time in Trek. But once again, thank you for joining us here, 60,000 light years. I'm your host, Jay Clark. That is Eric Berry, Trekkie B47, Jay Clark 787. Like, share, subscribe if you've missed any of our other previous observations. They're available for you wherever you get your podcasts. On YouTube, hit that little dingy ring thing. We upload once a month, hitting you on the first Saturday like a good cartoon, just taking you back to childhood. Something to look forward to on a Saturday morning. Until next time, thank you once again, my good friend. Be safe out here in this
Thank you
world.
too.
Much appreciated. It's always good talking some Star Trek. Get your mind off some things in this day and age.
Oh yeah.
Live long and prosper.
And to the journey.